About 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Osborne.
Here.
Bender.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Beam.
Here.
Sebel.
Here.
I need a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5 is the approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the hour 50 minutes. Second.
Motion and a second. That's a roll call vote.
Osborne.
Yes.
Bender.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Beam.
Yes.
Sebel.
Yes.
Number 6 is the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7 is the approval of the resolution calendar.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution calendar, but I had one question, Mayor. Second.
Motion and second. Steve?
It's kind of a simple thing. I'm just curious on the bills, why we buy 3 squad tires. Usually you buy them in 4s or 2s, and I know they've got to have some kind of rating, but $1,000 for 3 tires. I mean, we've been through this before, and I've never seen it quite that high. I'm just questioning, why did we not put all 4 on if we're replacing tires?
I'd have to look into that, I guess I'm not sure about that.
You guys had replaced a
Yep.
tire, like it was like not even a month before.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, that one did need to be replaced, and those are the high profile squad car tires. So they actually run $290 a piece.
I just thought we'd have bought them all at once if we were replacing one, look at the other ones. And can we get another bid on tires? Is that a state bid? That $290 a tire, is that just down there at that shop bid?
I'm sure we could.
I think it is a state bid, and if we have one bad tire, we're not gonna buy 4 tires every time.
I understand that, but I'm thinking, on this case, you did, and like a week before you bought one, and then buying 3 a week later. I'm just asking the question, why?
Well, I'd have to look into it closer, but, I'm guessing it was a situation where we didn't know the first week that we were gonna have issues the next week. So,
I'll look at it again.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
you bet.
I have a motion and a second. That's a roll call vote.
Osborne.
Yes.
Bender.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Beam.
Yes.
Sebel.
Yes.
The next item is discussion on the updates to the golf course, disc golf course, and Mike Kimchi is here to kind of give us a brief overview. Now, I did explain to Mike that this has got to go through the park board, and it'll be something that the council will deal with next January. But
Yes, that needs to be, that should be passed.
Okay, and they
We
have,
got those, yeah.
they all have it as well.
All right.
you want to stand
I
at
can.
the podium?
Sure. Hi, I represent myself as a citizen of 519 Evans Road, Evansdale, Iowa. I'm also a charter member of the Black Earth Metro Disc Golf League, which was established in 1985. So I've been playing this game for almost 40 years. Our community currently has 4 courses: Cedar Falls Tourist Park, Evansdale Deerwood Park, Cedar Falls Big Woods Lake, and Waterloo has a 27-hole Park and Exchange. The others are 18. Hudson and Waterloo also have 9-hole courses at Beechnut Park and Valley View Park. This sport is gaining in popularity and growth. Disc golf is one of the fastest growing sports in America, USA. I made the proposal and worked with the Evansdale City Parks Department and the city. We installed back in, it was 2002 and 2003, we installed the original 18-hole course. The cost of the baskets was split between the city of Evansdale and the league, our Blackhawk Metro Disc Golf League. I continue to work with the city and maintenance department for ongoing maintenance of this course as we speak. Deerwood Disc Golf Course is considered a technical wooded course. There are 2 tee pads for each hole, which offers 36 holes total. The course has evolved a bit over the past 19 years and is aging and in need of updates. I have walked through the wooded area, which is currently west of the disc golf course over the dike. You can refer to the maps. It's this area, the main course is in this basic triangle, and then as the dike is through here, and it's basically along around this part of the portion of the lake. In talking to the Parks Department, they indicated that there was some long-range plans of possibly adding some more campground spots around the lake. So with that in mind, I would be willing to work with Chris or whoever in the design to make sure that we allow for whatever future expansion the park might have in that capacity. Let's see. The new course would continue to have 2 tee pads. I believe this expansion would be for less confined course. The course right now has 18 holes in a very small area. If you've ever walked through the woods, there are some areas where potentially you could have some discs crisscrossing and players having issues. So we would like to, one of the reasons we would like to advance the design. We would add some additional par 4 holes, which means the holes would become longer. Right now, there's two par 4s, and the rest are par 3s. With moving across the other direction, this would help in the direction that the current course design standards are for professional play. Our course, or our area, this community is in need of a challenging course, and that's what I would like to provide with this layout and with your help. Along with the redesign, I would replace the existing course with updated baskets. We would also be removing and replacing some of the concrete tee pads, and all would get new tee signs. So in talking to the city, they had talked about some RISE funds that might be available in sharing some of the cost for this. So he asked for me to gather some donations. And one of the things that I had for them was, is it okay to advertise? In other words, sell advertising on the course in order to gain the money for the basket. That's something that is done on other courses. I didn't know how the city felt about that. Otherwise, we would just try to get individual donations to come up with the money that's needed. 18 new baskets are about $600 a piece, $10,800. The old baskets would be used in another location in the city, or could be sold. They have a value of $200. So there's a $3,600 value in the baskets that are there. Again, the city could find some place else to put them, or they could be sold and the money could go toward the new renovation. Any design issues would be worked out with the city before any construction begins. All course design and assembly of tee signs would be provided. We would request some help clearing some of the larger trees by the Parks Department, Maintenance Department. I guess if you have any questions, I could answer them at this time. Otherwise, thank you.
Yeah. Well, speaking for myself, I'm impressed with the usage that you have down there. There's no trouble that I know of, and it's fairly well maintained.
Yes.
But as we spoke, everything that you do request will come through the Parks Department.
Okay, they told me I needed to come to the council, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm here tonight.
Yeah,
I think that's more for budgetary purposes, for when the budget comes through during the winter. So
yeah,
he wanted me to make sure you guys were aware of what we'd like to do, and I think it would be a great asset to the community and the area, especially for Evansdale. Noticing that there's people from out of town and out of state that come to play this course, so it does get a lot of play, and I think it's pretty highly liked amongst players as well. So with the expansion, I think that would only get better, and having a campground nearby, you could potentially get some people spending the weekend.
right. Yeah,
Mr.
no.
Mayor, I believe on his question of selling advertising, I don't think we can have any type of advertising on city property for other than the businesses that are built there. I think if we have our attorney check into it, that we wouldn't be able to do that.
Mhm.
We have Christmas decorations with businesses, city businesses on them. That hang
Yeah, we
from
have a
our,
billboard on city property as well,
yeah,
so.
it's all over.
Definitely worth checking into.
See, I was thinking that when those came through the chamber, that the name on them was the people that paid for that wreath.
Well, businesses, there's businesses on it.
Yeah, that they were the ones that donated the money for that wreath.
Okay.
Right. And I think that's the same thing he's looking to do.
Yeah, kind of what he's talking about, because the Waterloo course has it too. Each hole has their own sign. The business will donate money, and so therefore their name will be on the sign for the hole that they paid for. And that's what he's referring to.
Yes.
And the area that he's talking about is down by Diamond 6 and 7, where it goes unused. So, yeah, and that's why we send them to the council, is because it obviously would have to be added to the next year's budget if this is something we took up. That's the main reason why we sent him to the city council.
Yeah, no, and this makes sense because the council might not hear any presentation that he would make to the park.
Correct.
So I felt like it would be advantageous for Mike and his group to at least sort of plant the seed, so to speak. So,
Can you tell us the figures of how much you're asking for again? That kind of went fast there.
There is 18 baskets needed. Estimated price is $600 a piece, which is $10,800 total. There would be some additional money that we would try and get donated for things like concrete for new T-pads. T-signs are about $100 a piece, so there would be some additional funds there. But like I say, and I've already had some people asking that would be willing to buy the old baskets. So I think that there is some good value in selling those off there. They aren't marked or anything with a city name tag and so it wouldn't be any issue getting rid of those.
So what are you looking at from the city, Mike, the 10,800? Or just anything
Well,
the
for
park
what the
board
Parks
has said?
Department said, they said there was like with these funds that if we raised half the money that the funds could match that. And so we'll probably potentially try and raise $6,000-7,000 to get the match in order to have enough extra money to pay for all the updates.
Dottie, do you have?
What kind of revenue do you bring to the city, do you estimate?
Oh, I have no idea. People stop and get gas at the gas station. They maybe stay in the campground for the weekend. It's potentially a community thing. I'm not sure. We don't have any hotels in the Evansdale area, but I'm sure there's people that come from out of town and definitely would use potentially some of the restaurants and other things in town.
Good.
I got a question. Wasn't there talk about putting a course over at Myers Park at one time, or Myers Park?
They
Yes.
are,
Yes,
Because if that's the case, can't we just move them baskets over there? Or do you wanna do all new baskets over at Myers Park?
Mayor, you mean the island out there with the island?
I thought somebody was talking about,
I had heard
There's golf
Elk
course
Run
over
is
there.
talking about putting.
That's
in
Mayor's
courses.
Park.
That's me.
Okay, that's
Yep.
out the other way,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Yes, and is that Evansdale or is that Elk Run, I guess?
Elk Run.
That is Elk Run, so maybe they'd be interested in purchasing the baskets for that course. but I think the city should try and get some value out of that. And like I said, there are players that would be willing to buy the baskets as well, so. I really don't have an issue as to where they go. I think if Elk Run decides to develop that, I'm assuming they're probably gonna buy new baskets as well.
Are you gonna go with the painted baskets, orange ones, like they have over in Urbana?
There's several different types. There's what they call an Innova basket, which has a wide yellow band around the top, and that really helps stand out to be able to see it from a
Because
distance.
when you're in the woods, it's hard to see them.
Yes, and I agree, that's one of the reasons we would like to change it up is,
Yeah.
the galvanizing does last a long time. I'm not a big fan of the painted steel because that galvanizing is gonna last many years longer than that paint is. And so I'm a little leery about, I would prefer to keep the majority of it galvanized, and then there's a band around the top of the basket support that is yellow, that really helps people to be able to see it from 400 or 500 feet away, which is some of these baskets need to see to, so.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike.
The next item is a request from the Public Works Director to replace a stormwater intake on Leonard Avenue. Did everybody see the pictures of that?
Yeah.
So it's very little doubt that it's needed. So I need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to allow them to replace the drainage on
Second.
Motion and a second.
I've got some questions on that.
Okay.
We talked earlier about possibly coming up with more than one at a time. This issue keeps coming back to us as one onesie twosie type scenario. So that's one question of why do we keep doing that? Another thing is, I did notice we only had one bid for the work.
Two bids. This one got missed in that large group that I did last time. So it just got missed, and then it was brought to my attention, and we got two bids, one from Christian Brothers and one from B&B kind of builders.
And is that just the top?
No, that's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
So the two bids, then you're saying B and B, or the one was only 1,400 to do the storm sewer and the other one's 4,000?
Yep.
So then the low bid would get the work, right?
Right.
I just had a question, is this anything that you could do in-house?
No,
You can't do
this is all cast in place. We're taking everything out.
Pardon?
We're taking everything out, just to
Okay,
save
that was
money.
gonna be my next question. Okay.
Yep, everything we're taking everything, doing all the removals, they're putting everything back in. But it's cast in place and they're just not really qualified for that. I mean, we can lay, like, some of the flat work we've done, like we did at the CRC and stuff like that, where there's not traffic pressuring you. But this is all cast in place stuff, so this will hire out.
That's a good bid, 1,400 then, they were more than that before.
Well, B and B is always competitive, so. Anything else? I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is a request to install a light pole at the end of Two River Road, again for security. We've never had a light back there. And there's been complaints over the years about people dumping stuff, and we're hoping that this will cut back on some of that.
Is this on the corner of Ridge and Two River? Right there in that corner
At the river.
Yeah,
of Ridge and Two River?
At the river, at Two Rivers, so
Oh, we're running
Two
it all the
River
way
all
down.
down to the river.
I thought there was a big concrete abutments across there and you couldn't even go down in there.
no, we opened it a couple months ago.
Really? Didn't know that.
Yeah, the city was deeded that property back there, so we opened it. It's under park board control.
See, that's what I wish they would put the old ramp in. It could be usable.
Yeah, wouldn't make much sense, would it otherwise?
Now, is this complete light, wiring, pole, everything?
Mhm. It's an underground service.
I'd make a motion to allow the mayor to have that light put in for security.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the next item is the discussion of the Michigan Avenue lift station. We met with Alex and I can't remember the other fellow's name from McClure,
His name is
Austin.
Wolf.
And Heath was there, and Chris, and we kind of discussed the possibilities. You wanna
Yeah,
elaborate
so
on that?
again, this lift station, Michigan lift station, made our 180-day assessment, which I brought to everybody's attention last time I believe I was here. It is obviously the oldest lift station the city has. It is the only dry pit lift station that is left. The controls are aging, we have had issues, and city, you guys have invested a lot recently in it. Like Dick said, we reached out to McClure just for some preliminary cost estimates. And again, these are extreme preliminaries. Do they have copies of these?
It was in their packet, yes.
So, you can see the first one is over $1 million for this, and we're just gonna more or less cross this off, I would think. Over half the cost is putting a building over it and a brand new wet well, so that's half the cost of that proposal, and we talked about it, that's a little overkill for that lift station. The second one is $750,000, and that's still putting in a new wet well. We had dependable maintenance come in to get their professional input regardless to see if this wet well is rehabable, and it is. And that is pointed out in the lowest proposal at $492,000. And again, this is a real rough estimate. I have a few questions for McClure myself on this number on a few items. But just from a funding standpoint, I believe this is what you guys wanted, just to at least see a rough number. So that's pretty much what this is at this point. We had discussed with McClure, is this something that we wanna hold off and tie into with the treatment plant? And we felt that it probably would not benefit, and I don't know, Deanne, maybe you can elaborate. It would not
Yes.
benefit as much with that due to the funding reasons because of, if you remember with the,
Well, if we were to go use the CDBG, we do have those block grants available. That would be better spent going towards, $600,000 is what we can apply for, going towards the wastewater treatment plant. The other alternative is a SRF loan. We do have some funds left in that we kind of have to burn through. But on both of those plans, there's so many more hoops the DNR makes us jump through. And it could cost upwards of $200,000 to $300,000 more for doing pretty much the same thing where we.
For the engineering
Yeah.
aspects of it, yeah.
For what the.
So we spoke earlier about the COVID relief funds, coming in. When is the other part of that coming in?
The other part's not coming in until it'll be probably next August.
Okay,
But we had set aside,
but we can allocate.
And it might not be relevant before then, by the time design is done and everything. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible, the low bid was $492. And if you go by there's nothing there. I mean, it's incredible, $500,000 in a little underground facility.
yeah,
But it's key to the operation.
it's all underground. And
Yeah.
again, Michigan lift station takes everything that dumps into Flash J lift station. so it takes quite a bit of wastewater as well. And we had that a rock throw in the side of the balloon of the one pump that caused, I'd say, the most recent damage. But I would think, my recommendation is to not replace the well. And Charlie, you had a question earlier in regards to, does it even need to be rehabbed? That's a good question. I mean, it does look rough just by the exterior. It would definitely need a cap. Christy, you talked about wanting to see it lifted up because that you guys received flooding.
Yep, we had to sandbag it, so I'd
So-
like to lift it.
Yeah, at a minimum of just putting that top, the cap. I see in his proposal, they had 20,000 to rehab. I mean, to me, that's kind of a low number, just by what I'm seeing in Elk Run.
Sounds like a spray,
Yes,
maybe a spray.
yeah. I think that's kind of on the low side, in my opinion. You might know more than I do.
Spray wise, sprays, it depends on how much work we're willing to do. You know, can we pull the pumps out ourselves? Can we, get it cleaned out to where they can come in, right?
And how effective would, I guess my question for you guys are dependable is how effective would that be to do it after the pumps and the rails?
It's rough,
It's rough.
Yeah.
So that would be the time to do it.
correct.
So, and then I got other questions for McClure, but, the magnetic flow meter for 7,500. We got 50 grand for SCADA and controls. Well, we don't need a SCADA, but we do need controls, so I've got some questions of my own as far as refining that value, but just a rough number.
Here's the big question, how are the other lift stations doing? In other words, if we decide, okay, let's go ahead and do this lift station, it is old, it has been beaten to death forever. Go ahead and get it rehabbed and get some pumps in there and get that going. How are the other ones?
I would say the other ones are doing well. Obviously, Arbutus has had a lot of work done to it recently, and same thing with East End has had some recent work to it. I would say the next two, obviously Flying J gets a lot of grease from the restaurants. And we're putting enzymes in there, and I think we found a more cost-effective way to start treating that here in the next few months to see if we can reduce the grease. But it's still a good lift station, other than the grease, but I guess that if that does develop more out that area, that's something that is on, we could call the 5 or 10 year radar, if it does need.
Yeah, we also need to get in the process of actually checking their grease traps and making sure that they're doing everything that they should be doing.
Yeah, yeah. And then I would say the next oldest and the smallest one is right here on North Evans. But that lift station's only running a few.
So if you were to put a plan together, we redo this one, looking down the road, what do you feel comfortable saying?
North Evans would be next, but that's a much smaller lift station.
5-10 years?
I would say, 5 to 10 for that one,
Well, so McClure had no opinion on what was best. They all, of the three options, they all have their own benefits. But in that meeting, talking with Chris and Heath, we kind of came to the conclusion that rehab at the 490 number is not a bad way to go. Apparently you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. The thing also is this would be the perfect scenario to check on the other ones. I mean, if it didn't work that great, we could always, in the future, do something different. But I think we ought to try it. So.
We just do a
Just do it.
$500,000 experiment? Yeah, sounds reasonable.
And we had good luck, we just finished one in Riverside that went well, and it's drawn up the same way.
Well, you got that. I mean, most of your manhole rehab is lining and spray out. So, it's in the time, so.
So is that something you're asking to come back with bids for that type of procedure too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
there are a couple of people, the biggest things, like I said, is getting more people involved in these bids, especially when it comes to rehab.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of names that you could
we'll
call.
take
and
all the,
and-
yeah, and
And
we'll,
see what's going on.
Yeah, and one thing interesting they said too, you would probably have one company, a smaller company, like you discussed earlier, do the actual well itself, the rehab of the well,
Correct.
and then, you
And then
know,
after the pump company comes to the pump.
probably like electric, yeah, cause they do the flight, which are,
Well, we also want somebody that's gonna be familiar with that, to help these guys out if there is a problem, things of that sort, so.
right,
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pretty standard way of doing it, so.
So what are we talking for a time limit, but, whatever we do, are we talking a year, 3 years, 5 years to do this project, in your professional opinion?
I would say the sooner the better with the inflation that they have been seeing. And that's what kind of scares me a little bit looking at these numbers and just seeing ones just recently how volatile those numbers have been. So, I mean, to kick the can down the road a little longer, I mean, I don't.
Well, another thing is, and we discussed this, I mean, in winter time, when it starts getting cold, there's gonna be a lot of hungry guys out there looking for exactly this. So possibly we could get a better deal, during the winter time doing this.
January.
Yeah.
What is the time limit of that, the relief? Is there or if it's just straight SRF, then you're right, then it's,
no, but we would use the American Rescue Funds.
is there a time limit on that, or?
As far as to spend them up to 2024, so we're good
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
It's just our first reporting thing has to be in April, but we're still good on this.
Yeah,
We kind of discussed that we would have an agreement on the next agenda, and then they would move forward. Is that correct?
yeah.
Okay.
So the two questions really before the council are, which option, and do you want to use American Rescue Funds? Which is, Deanne had said, it's a much cleaner process according to Austin and Alex, using those funds. We have a little over 700,000, so it takes a big bite of that. But let's face it, it's money well spent and we have no choice, so.
Well, my personal opinion is, you know, we had discussed this, is basically, those funds need to be allocated. I don't feel real comfortable with that stuff just sitting out there. So let's allocate it to things that, you know, possibly people don't see, but, you know, that need to be done.
And it's within the means of what we can spend it on.
So what do we look at if we do this option B, this lining? How much do you think we'd save on this project, or is there no savings?
On this,
Yeah, like the 492.
well, I mean, that's what, you know, that's what they're looking at now is 20. I don't know how deep the well is, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
It's like 25, 30.
25, 30 feet deep with spray on. I'd have to find out how many bags.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought 20,000 was a little.
You're seeing more and more guys do this, a lot of them spray, and you know, it's almost up to an inch. And it's fiberglass face, type deal, I mean, it holds together really, really well. You just gotta watch how you top it, which if we're adding top to it, they can do it before the top goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And then put a seal around the top and actually fold it back over. Put a seal over the top and then you don't have to worry about peeling, so.
So does Peoples get that together for us for that auction, or you having a source to give him for that?
I can give them the sources.
Yes, and then we'll pass that on to McClure, that we want certain, the primary, which would probably either be EP, that we would like these individuals contacted. And if there's a product that works better, that's probably, I mean, whether the spray or, I mean, they're not grouting.
I'm a fan of the spray on. I mean, the spray on's just, you know, anything that gets that deep, you start getting in the lining and it starts getting way expensive. So, the spray on just works really well in that situation. And you know, I've been in manholes that, you know, are, you know, 10 10 years old that have the spray and they look like they were done yesterday. So it's a good product. It's been around for quite a while. It's kind of a spatter type coat, so.
And really, tonight's action will just get the whole process started for design. So there'll be probably more discussion on this in the future than we might want, but this kind of starts it all. So if someone wants to make a motion for one of the options with one of the funding sources, we can move it along, or we can do it in two motions. But I think it would be simpler to do it in one.
I would make a motion to go with the refab of the wet well, $492,300, as an estimate. And that would be my motion.
With
Second.
American Rescue.
Yes, with American Rescue Funds, if you want to do it in one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Unless everybody wants to do it in two, but
That makes me feel a lot more comfortable allocating that, so yes, with the funds.
yeah.
So.
So I have a motion to.
Second.
Motion and a second to use the rehab option with American Rescue Funds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good, they can get started right away.
I'll call Alex.
Okay, sounds good. Then just a quick update on the wastewater treatment, plant improvements. McClure's plans by the end of the year, they would like to submit the anti-degradation analysis, as well as submit the facility plan to the DNR for review by the end of the year.
I gave you all new updated calendar.
And January, they want to submit the SFR planning design and the loan application. Big picture wise, bidding and contract, July 2022 is their plan. Construction improvements, September of 2022, and complete by September 1st, 2024 is the goal. They would like to see this done in the construction phase in 2 different years, with starting the UV disinfection, because the NPDS permit deadline for the E. coli compliance is December 1st of 2023. And we also feel like the bids would be more competitive if you gave that contractor the ability to get that work done in 2 seasons. So now that's McClure's goal. DNR, it could be a different story, so.
And we had some good news, you want to share?
Yeah, the nutrient reduction, so, in the review, they feel that that's not going to apply to this, which is a big deal as far as having to add like anoxic aeration zones to the plant. So that was good news that we did receive in their review, their initial review on the nutrient reduction, so, yeah.
And what would be the overall savings on that, Ben?
Oh,
4 million.
4 million, was it 4
was
million?
it 4 million?
Because it
That's
was
tremendous
8 to
savings
4.
for the citizens.
Wow.
I'm happy about that.
Yes, yeah, so that is a lot.
Yeah, we are all excited.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Heath.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Public discussion on the agenda items. Okay,
I have an item.
mine's nothing up.
Nope, no.
My name's Laura Edmondson. I live at 1674 Michigan Drive in Evansdale. I want to start small. We've got a much larger problem when it comes to many of our houses in recent years have been sold on tax sales to landlord situations. And these landlords really have no interest in helping us maintain equity in our homes as people that live in the community. So just to start small, I have quite a few things I'd like to talk about, but today I'm just gonna stick to the trees. Nuisance and volunteer trees are not being handled. they're causing damage to other people's property, especially in the rental homes. Houses that could be more than what they are, that have outbuildings that could make the value of the property even more than what it is, are being completely neglected. And we've got volunteer trees popping up everywhere, and fence lines, along foundations, growing up along garages. We've got dead trees everywhere. And they're mostly in rental properties, but it is a problem across the whole community. And I'd like to know if we could do anything to put down a ordinance that says trees must be planted if they're gonna be allowed to grow, so that we don't have ongoing issues with fences getting destroyed and garages getting destroyed, foundations getting destroyed in rental homes that the landlord isn't gonna lose any money on.
Anybody on the council want to address that?
Do we not have a tree ordinance?
We do have a tree ordinance to a certain extent, but I would definitely have to check and see if they need to be planned. I really don't think it addresses that.
Okay, and I'm not saying that people need to come and get a permit to plant a tree by any means. But when you're allowing volunteer trees, especially these elm and mulberry trees, these are just nuisance trees. They're not doing anybody any good. They're not growing for shade. They're not growing for a reason. They're just not being taken care of while they're still infant volunteer trees, before they even become saplings. And then, even if you go up to the hardware store, they don't have the chemicals that we need to kill them off. So when the next person comes along, like myself, and spends several $1,000s on a fence, now we have to battle all the roots along the fence line to try and get the fence installed, which is gonna cost us even more money. So I just think that we need to do something about that.
Well, we have a weed and grass ordinance, but I'm fairly certain nothing on trees. So, and the council can take it under advisement.
And from my understanding,
We're gonna have to think about.
Yeah. Well, yeah, how far do you want to go with it,
well, yeah, and I understand some people have wooded lots, and that's very different. But when it's an imposition on other people and other people's safety, the house across the street from me on Second and Michigan has a dead tree in the corner of their fence line. If that tree decides to tip over, it's not only gonna take out the fence, but it's gonna take out other things around it that belong to the next door neighbors. As a matter of fact, they've got 3 dead trees in their yard. And at any point, one of those trees could fall on their home. It's a rental home. Doesn't matter to the landlord.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mike?
I just wanted to follow up with Councilman Siebel's question earlier, if I could just briefly. I sent a text message to my secretary, and we believe that those 4 tires all went on car 19. I'm not sure why it was billed the way it was. I'll have to follow up with that. We're unsure about the state bid, although it seems like that was in the past, and I think it still is. I'll follow up on that as well. So I just wanted to let you know that that's where we think those tires went, is all on the same vehicle.
Okay, thank you, appreciate your time.
You bet.
So for the mayor's report, you'll recall at the last meeting, we suggested we would bring the dog ordinance back and reconsider it. But in discussing it with Chris and Wanda, Deanne and I don't feel like there needs to be any more discussion on it. It's pretty clear cut on our ordinance and the agreement that those owners signed. So, unless the council directs us to bring it back for reconsideration, I'm considering it a done deal.
Was there a special paper signed addressing Molly only? My recommendation would be that that piece of paper was torn up and they follow our city ordinance, period.
But that piece of paper was our city ordinance. was,
Yeah.
just broken down.
I understand, but let him tear that piece of paper up, that will make him happy, that's what he wanted. Then he can follow our dog ordinance for the city, and it's a done deal.
Yeah, that's.
That dog is the same as every other pit bull dog, I think probably in the state of Iowa.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see why the council needs to waste hours on it, when it's really a simple thing. And he done everything he was asked to do at the time, so take Molly's name off as an individual, let him tear that piece of paper up, and hand him the ordinance, and that's what he follows. And our chief put that ordinance out for us so we could read it. It's pretty clear. It's a pit bull, it follows that ordinance, it's the end of the discussion. That's my personal opinion.
I think at the last meeting, Gene, he was just having concern about being labeled a dangerous dog.
Yes.
But I've talked to him also, and he's conformed to everything, and when I heard Chris and Wanda both say there's no issues with him at all, and he gets to have the dog in town, and I went over there, and he is fenced in, and I think he is in a position to be more responsible. I guess if that's the ordinance, I don't know what he can save by saying it's not a dangerous dog. But I don't see how we could just, without dialogue with him, just tear up a mutual agreement we signed. I think there needs to be a little dialogue there with Dan or the mayor. That'd be just like anybody gets a citation, you say you're gonna tear it up, throw it away because you think it's a better deal. I'd like to have some conversation with the staff so he understands the story is the story. He got told by Wanda outside the door last meeting. Has he come forth about still wanting the dangerous dog tag off? I haven't heard any dialogue that he's still requesting that.
See, I understood that he wanted the name Molly taken off, didn't want that one particular name as a vicious dog or a dangerous dog.
His concern with Wanda was being tagged dangerous dog.
Well, I didn't think he got a citation. I thought he signed an agreement so that they didn't have to destroy the dog. I thought that's what it was.
Do you recall, Chris?
Yeah, he had to,
I sent you today,
yeah, everything she sent in the packet was
what I sent today,
Right.
yes.
what the steps we followed, and he wasn't compliant. The only thing that kind of raised a flag for me is, he said he lived in, we haven't had any issues for 2 years. He said he lived in Waterloo for 1.5 years. So then that leads me to believe we've only had no problems for 6 months, and that's high traffic for kids. So I feel he still needs to have his dog on a leash when it's not confined in his backyard. And I think that is our ordinance, so.
Well, all things considered, I thought that agreement was a great compromise.
Yeah.
Because I think in the past, we have had dogs removed. And so they at least got to keep it. And from all my understanding, Chris, they're following that agreement, right?
Right.
And I believe that came back to the council in October, November, the last of Doug Foss's tenure.
19.
And he wanted the dog permanently removed from Evansdale, and the council voted that down.
Mhm.
They wanted to allow Molly to come back into town. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's been real terrible toward him about the dog. But it just, he's got this stuck in his head that the name Molly is a bad dog is really bugging him. And I'm trying to figure out some way to make him feel better about that, but he still has to follow the ordinance.
Yeah, no, I think he's gonna have to live with it. Anybody on the council, have anything?
Yeah, I have a comment. We know for sure that we're gonna have 3 of the same council people back next year. I have to put a shout out to Mr. Joe Wright, who is working real hard to bring back our good old days, community days, cucumber days, whatever you want to call them. And I would ask these council members to really look next year at the budget to be able to help him a little bit financially, like we always help the Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to see that come back into the community and be a 3-day event. Now, I know it's real easy to make it a 1 day because there's a lot of money made on that day. There's no money made on Friday, and there's no money made on Saturday morning, and there's none made on Sunday. And it's hard to get people to want to participate in volunteers. That's what we run into in the chamber. Nobody wanted to volunteer anymore. It's down to 3 people trying to put it on. So I would ask you 3 to kind of get behind me.
I don't have any problem
I'm
with
in
it.
agreement with it.
I was kind of sad when it didn't go here for whatever reason, between entities in town, it didn't get worked out. So if they can all pull together and he gets cooperation, I think it was a great event for the town.
I do too.
I have no problem with it, and we'll move forward, all of us, and we'll work to some extent to make that happen.
Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Then, let's see.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
You came, I wanna shake your hand.
You motivated that.